Welcome to Saga Thing, where we're putting the Sagas the Icelanders on trial. I'm John.
And I'm Andy. And in this episode, we are judging the Saga of the People of Vopnafjord.
Are we really?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we always do. Why do you say that?
Well, it's a fairly short saga. I don't know why we need an entire episode just to judge it.
Are you kidding me? We spent nearly 2 hours talking about the story of Vopnafjord.
What was that about?
Are you being facetious here?
Yes.
Good. I was a little worried.
We probably should just quickly explain it for people who don't have this thing memorized.
Slackers.
Now. So, Vopnafjord Saga told the story of two chieftains, Brodd-Helgi and his BFF, Geir Ludingson, how they bonded over local politics and the casual murder of a Norwegian merchant, and then how their friendship went terribly wrong when Brodd-Helgi spurned his sickly wife, who happened to be Geir's sister.
Nicely put. That's one of the only reasons for the falling out, actually. And eventually, Brodd-Helgi's obnoxious behavior threatens local stability and Geir's own reputation, and he's forced to act to eliminate his former friend.
Mm-hmm. Now, Brodd-Helgi's son Luting was caught in the ambush and killed as well, leaving the remaining son, Bjarni, with the unenviable task of having to seek revenge against Geir, his mother's brother, for the deaths of his father and brother.
He eventually did take his revenge, but with a heavy heart. And then we learned the story of Bjarni and Geir's son Thorkel carrying on a feud before finally making their peace with one another.
Right. They're peace with one another, but leaving a trail of corpses in their wake.
Sure, but it's nice that they worked it all out in the end.
Well, yeah, that's the important thing, right? Is that those two got back together. Doesn't matter how many families go hungry and mourn the loss of their fathers and husbands.
Right.
So all that happens in a saga that's riddled with missing bits and pieces, including an especially long gap where Brodd-Helgi actually dies. So this was a somewhat frustrating saga from a narrative standpoint.
But still one with a lot to offer. Now, are you ready to pass some judgments?
Bang that gavel, sir.
Best Bloodshed.
Now, whenever we run into a text that is a mere Hrafnkel in length, we can be fairly certain that the number of candidates in any given category are going to be fewer than we'd like to see here at Saga Thing. Vopnafjord Saga is one of those shorter sagas, which means we don't have a lot of bloodshed candidates to choose from.
I'm not sure if the length of the saga is always proportional to the number of bloodshed candidates. I mean, there are plenty of shorter sagas that are full of bloodshed. It's just that Vopnafjord Saga isn't one of them.
Fair enough, which is kind of what I was saying. Now, while we may not have a plethora of bloodsheddy episodes to choose from here, this saga does have a few good options, I think.
Bloodsheddy?
I've been using that for a while now, so...
I know, but it's an odd adjective.
It's still dangerous.
I don't disagree. Why don't you get us started?
Okay. I think the saga gets off to a great start for Bloodshed, actually. Remember we get that story about the origins of Brodd-Helgi's nickname in the first chapter?
Mm-hmm. This is where he ties the ice spur to the forehead of his bull, and then watches it gore another bull to death.
Yes, that's the one. It was better told in Thorstein the White Saga, in my opinion.
It won Best Bloodshed for that saga, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But I'm not considering that one here.
Well, then why are you bringing it up?
I just want to show the saga starts off with a bang.
All right, let me try this again. I'll be a little bit more direct this time. What is your first candidate?
Oh.
The one you actually want us to consider.
Yeah, no problem. I got that. I'm hoping to see Brodd-Helgi win another Best Bloodshed tonight, so I've stacked the deck in his favor.
Well, that's not hard to do. I mean, he's responsible for most of the bloodshed in the saga.
True, exactly. And my first candidate also happens to be Brodd-Helgi's first foray into killing.
Okay.
It comes from Chapter 2, when we hear of a big, strong bad guy named Svart coming to Iceland and pushing people around. He kills his neighbor Skidi and then gets outlawed from the district.
Right, Brodd-Helgi prosecuted that case.
That's right, and it's pretty impressive for a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, see, the kid had a promising future at this point. What went wrong?
I agree, but he earns real fame after learning that Svart has been hiding out and stealing people's livestock at an inappropriate rate.
Now, out of curiosity, what would be considered an appropriate rate for stealing people's livestock?
I'm not
What's
sure.
the sheep per annum ratio?
I don't know. I don't think it's per annum, per diem probably.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Or maybe, I don't know what it's per weekum, but the saga says, or monthum, I don't know.
Oh dear, I think you're showing off the limits of your Latin.
Don't tell your wife. The saga does say that he always took more than he needed when stealing the livestock. But Brodd-Helgi deals with the Svart problem using the same kind of clever inventiveness that he used with the bull. He prepares for the fight by fashioning makeshift armor out of a large, thin flagstone.
Right. He shoves one end down his pants and the other under his shirt, which does end up protecting him from Svart's spear.
Yeah, it's a memorable scene. The spear glances off the rock and sticks into the ground, leaving Svart open to Brodd-Helgi's attack.
That's right. And things go downhill for Svart very quickly after that.
That's right. Brodd-Helgi starts by cutting off Svart's leg, and then, after being roundly cursed to a miserable life afterwards, he deals him a death blow.
Yeah, that's a pretty good scene. And the curse is effective because this really marks the end of any chance readers might want to get behind Brodd-Helgi as a hero in this saga.
Yeah. He's not exactly a great guy going forward, so maybe the curse does work. Oh, and did you by chance happen to notice that the translator used the word halberd for the spear that Svart uses here?
Does he? Yeah. It's the old halberd controversy again, huh?
Yes. Translators seem to favor the word halberd to describe the spears or glaives or whatever used by saga characters. I know we talked about Gunnar's halberd, which was the word chosen for the Icelandic atger. The atger is definitely used for both thrusting and cutting, so maybe a glaive is a good guess on that one. I don't know. Although the atger doesn't have to be a single-edged weapon. But that's Njal saga. In this case, the word for Svart's halberd is hogspjot, a compound word made of hog, stroke or blow, and spjot, spear. So a reasonable translation might be hewing spear or striking spear. This word's used elsewhere in the sagas. I looked it up. Spent an evening on this, but we don't usually get enough of a description of its function in battle to understand exactly what it is. We'll see the Hogspjot in Vigaglum saga, Fereinga saga, and Egil saga.
That's right.
Egil definitely has a Hogspjot in his hand. I looked at the Icelandic when he ambushes Berg Onund. But then when they start fighting, the spears they throw at each other are both referred to as kesja, another common term for spear in the sagas. So, given the use in this episode from Egil saga, the kesja is clearly a throwing spear. So it's got to be different from a hogspjot, doesn't it?
Well, I would assume so. I mean, it could just be the author mixing things up, but it could also refer to some kind of a different head on the weapon.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be the same spear that he was holding when he got there for the thing. So the name hogspjot indicates that it is a hewing spear, so it must have a knife-like ended head. But if we're sticking with Egil saga, things get even more interesting. If you look a few chapters earlier in the saga, we're told that Egil's brother Thorolf has a kesja, and they give a vivid description of what a kesja is exactly. Here's what it says. Its blade was 2 ells long and rectangular, tapering to a point at one end but thick at the other. The shaft measured only a hand's length below the long and thick socket which joined it to the blade, but it was exceptionally stout. There was an iron spike through the socket, and the shaft was completely clad with iron. Such spears were known as scrapers of metal.
That's really specific. And for me, it calls to mind, if you think about Mjolnir, right? A short-shafted but stout hammer.
Yeah.
This idea of like a kind of a close combat hand weapon rather than a longer reach weapon.
Interesting. Yeah, and what I want to know here is why can't all saga authors be so thorough? We wouldn't have to debate what these spears are if they would just describe them in more detail.
I mean, honestly, I'm grateful that some of them hold back. We'd never finish this first series of our podcast if every saga was as thorough as Egil and Njal's saga.
Yeah, you're right. So there is also one other possibility that gets floated around, and this one is supported by the seemingly irreconcilable shift in terminology that we see in the Berg Onund episode of Egil saga. It's possible that the saga authors simply used a variety of terms to describe their spears and didn't really care or know what word was used where.
Yeah, that's not terribly satisfying.
No, it's not. I'm not sure I buy it or like it, but it does help explain why the author uses both terms in Egil saga.
I guess. I don't know. Although I think I'm starting to understand why halberd is used so often by translators, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big mess, and I'm not the only one to have spent a few hours or evenings trying to puzzle this out. There's plenty of scholarships on the subject, but it does tend to just lump the atger and hogspjot together as one, which either helps clear up the Egil saga case, or...
Well, I mean, or just confirms that nobody really has an answer about the subject.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I was going to say. And I want to take a moment to thank my friend Adam for helping me with some of the research on spears that I did. We've never actually met, but I've had several pleasant exchanges with him on Twitter, and he's given me lots of good advice and links and stuff like that. He uses the handle @eBlueAxe if you're looking for him. He's an excellent resource for Viking Age archaeology, and he's also a really nice guy, very generous with his time whenever I've got questions. So thanks for all the help, Adam.
Yeah, he's worth following. He does reproductions of Viking Age materials. It's really
beautiful
interesting
reproductions.
Stuff. Right, neither of us claims any level of expertise when it comes to medieval material culture, so it's really nice to have reliable people out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the best parts about this podcast. We've both met, or virtually met, usually. So many cool people.
We have. And while all this is fascinating, I'd like to point out that we've only covered the first candidate of our first judgment section. We should probably conclude the digression and steer back toward our purpose.
Good point. And my mead is actually getting dangerously close to empty, so we better move it along or we're going to have to pause for a refill. So what's your first candidate?
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't include or at least acknowledge the killing of Brodd-Helgi and looting on the way to the local assembly. Well, I mean, there's a great build-up to this, right, where we learn the participants on both sides, and Helgi and Geir frenemy their way into the agreement to ride together to the meeting. At some point, things turn violent, and multiple people are killed. Now, admittedly, we don't actually get to witness that because of a missing part of the manuscript. We don't know whether it was an ambush, an assassination, or an open brawl. But the man who Jonas Christensen called the canker at the core of this saga goes down to the culmination of careful plotting by his enemy. I realize I can't win because it's not actually in the saga.
Right.
But I've written about 5 different versions of this battle in my mind, and they're all awesome.
Well, and for that reason, we can't count that one.
Sure.
I mean, the contents of the episode you're offering here, they're lost to the ravages of time. We can't count it. And if anything, honestly, we should be thinking about the lacuna itself as a candidate for Best Bloodshed.
What?
I mean, think about look at what it's done to the text.
Oh,
talk about bloodshed.
God. Are you kidding? You're getting a little meta now. the bloody wound on the manuscript.
Yes,
I see.
I think it's worth considering.
All right, there's no greater or more explosive bit of bloodshed in this saga than the big lacuna in the middle.
You're right. I mean, it's a bit meta, but I kind of like it as a candidate. Though I'm not really sure how we'd manage to give the lacuna its award here on the stage.
I think we just have to toss it into the void and hope for the best.
There you go. All right, since I filled up my first selection for Best Bloodshed with a digression on spears, I'm going to keep my second one really short for you.
Oh, what a merciful gentleman you are, Andy. Thank you.
Now, I don't think anyone will have trouble remembering Brodd-Helgi's decapitation of Thormod's oxen. Not just 1 or 2 oxen, mind you. He lops the heads off a whole herd of oxen. And that's no small feat. Yeah,
time-consuming, I'd imagine.
And exhausting. I mean, who's got the strength to single-handedly behead more than 3 oxen in an evening?
Wait, what? Why 3? Is that your number? Have you been experimenting in Farmer Brown's fields late at night, seeing how many you can get through?
No, I'm just guessing at what a strong man, which I'm not, reasonably might be capable of doing.
I see. You had me worried for a second there.
Now, there's one thing that bugs me about this episode, John.
Which is?
I want to know what's wrong with all the oxen who just stand there waiting their turn to get beheaded. I mean, sure, you're probably going to stand there after the first beheading just to see what Brodd-Helgi is going to do next, but after the second and then the third one, I think it's pretty clear what's going on. If I'm an ox, I'm hightailing it out of there.
These are stealth cows? They freeze in place and try to blend into the background.
Yeah, they'll never see me.
Moo. Oxen aren't known for their brilliant deductive skills, Andy. Wait, that's the thing that bugs you about the episode? Just the why the cows stay still, not the actual decapitating of a herd of cattle?
Oh, that too, of course. Very disturbing.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's it's a little late for you to... I think you're going to be getting a word or two from the ASPCA.
Oh, no. Since we're talking about animals...
No, another digression.
Yeah, well, just a short one. So much of the action of the sagas revolves around the livestock kept by characters. And we don't often take the time to appreciate what an important role animals played in the lives of Saga Age Icelanders. I mean, we
You're trying to get back in good with PETA after your experimental executing of oxen?
Look, if anyone here pays attention to what's going on with the livestock, it's me. And we do try here and there on the podcast to make note of them where we can, but there's a lot more to be said. So if you're interested in learning more about animals in the settlement age and you just happen to be in Reykjavik, why don't you visit the Viking Animals Exposition at the Reykjavik City Museum?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw you tweeting about that earlier today. It looks cool.
Yeah,
I wish I was getting to Iceland this year so I could check it out.
Yeah, so do I, John, and many of our listeners too. But this exhibition is part of Dr. Laura Hogg's research. If you visit, you'll learn all about Viking Age animals, archaeological data we have about them, and even their role in Norse mythology.
Why, there's something for everyone.
Exactly. I'll put a link or two in the episode text if anyone wants to learn more. But that's enough of that. Digression complete. Do you have any other candidates, John?
I do have one more. I think
right.
the killing of Geir is worth considering. If only because it's so monumental a moment.
Definitely.
As you pointed out during the episode, it's not often a man's leg falls asleep in the sagas.
Right. Or in any literature.
That's right. It's monumental because of the amount of social pressure Bjarni has to be under when he commits that killing. Right? If anyone needs a refresher, quite a long time goes by after the deaths of Bjarni's father and brother in that fight that we lost in the Lacuna, and he's already killed Tjorvi the Tall in revenge. But he continues to see Geir Ludingsson, who masterminded the killings. And one evening, Bjarni fakes a numb leg, stands up, and puts an axe in Geir's skull. It's a pretty smooth assassination if you're into that sort of thing. But what makes it noteworthy is the relationship between these two. Right? Geir is Bjarni's foster father, and he's also his maternal uncle. Now, that's exactly the relationship between Gisli Sursen and Snorri Gothi, which is usually held up as a no-win situation for Snorri. Right? How do you avenge your father on your uncle? And obviously it's also the plot of Hamlet, I suppose. Socially, Bjarni is caught between the need to avenge his father and the impossibility of sanctioned revenge against his own uncle. He chooses revenge, but he pays a heavy price in reputation. I'm not saying it's the most spectacular bloodshed of the saga, but it's a great example of why these moments of violence are often more than just violence.
Yeah.
Right? They're the testing point of individual codes of ethics in a culture that fetishizes individuality.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
See, that sounded smart. And if none of that floats your boat, it's also a man who buries his axe in a guy's head and then cradles that head in his lap as the guy dies. It's pretty great.
That's great stuff.
So what are we going to do? Who's our winner?
Well, how often do you see a herd of cattle get their heads cut off?
I mean, depends on what part of the country you're in. There are parts of the country where that's a Thursday.
Right, it's Chicago in the 1800s.
Right, the stockyards.
Yeah. But no, I think in terms of bloodshed in this episode, it's got to be either the slaying of Geir here, just for its kind of the weight of that episode, or the oxen. But I'm partial to the oxen.
See, I feel like what gets me about the Geir killing is not that he puts an axe in his father's head, but his foster father's head. It's that he then cradles Geir's head in his lap as Geir dies.
Sure, but I think
it speaks to me about the cost of that revenge.
Oh, absolutely. I think if we're weighing which is the more kind of poetic and literary moments in the saga, that one would win. But we're talking about best bloodshed here, which is traditionally about bloodshed, not what happens after it.
And so your argument is that because there are a lot of dead cows and therefore more blood, that it's a better choice?
I think that's a piece of the puzzle, but there's also the fact that it's a pretty impressive and unusual act, we tend to award those kind of things.
I'm going to dismiss your argument about bloodshed, given that you tried to sneak in the lacuna in the manuscript as a candidate.
It was a bloodshed of literature.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we weren't counting
words.
Literary bloodshed.
I would totally give the best bloodshed to the lacuna if you want to.
Should we actually go meta?
I mean, as scholars of literature, I think meta is exactly where we belong.
I think we can do this if we accept that this is a one-time event, because we're going to run into other lacunae in the manuscripts.
That's true.
This cannot happen every time. But I think as a one-time event, to recognize the contingent nature of much of what we read,
there you go.
It would be a fine thing.
All right, well then, to the lacuna. John, grab that.
We are going to get emails about this one.
Grab that trophy and toss it into the void, my friend.
All right.
Body count.
All right, our body count for this episode isn't earth-shattering, but honestly, that's partly because of the missing bits of the manuscript we keep talking about.
Yeah.
Right? We just don't know how many people are killed in some of these battles, and especially during the parts that are lost, right? And that big set-piece battle where we lose both Brodd-Helgi and Looting, we don't know who else is lost. So most of the people who are set up as combatants in that fight aren't heard from again in the saga, right? Did they die, or did they just wander off? Are they just out of the saga? We don't know.
They wouldn't be the first people in the sagas to wander off after their function had been served.
Absolutely, right? And we don't know what's what. And the same goes for the death of Thormod the Farmer and others, right? And I think we'll talk about that a little bit. We know there are multiple fatalities because bodies are referred to several times.
Yeah.
Right? But only one man is named and no number is ever given. So according to the rules we've laid down before, we can't count the others, even though we know they're there. Ultimately, we ended up with a respectable but not terribly impressive score of 17 dead, with half of them coming in that final brawl between Bjarni and Thorkel's supporters.
That's right, yeah. 8 people die in that one battle.
We didn't even bring that up in Best Bloodshed.
No, well, because it wasn't very noteworthy.
Right. Not as noteworthy as a missing piece of paper.
Yeah. I really want to add at least one more body to the Thormod battle, because it says
I understand.
Thormod was killed and he was with a bunch of other people, and it says bodies, and they have to take carts on the backs of horses into the forest to get the bodies.
I am entirely sympathetic to that point of view. However,
we can at least do 2 or 3 there. I mean,
based on the arguments that we have laid down in the past, if we aren't sure about the numbers, we can't count them. If you'll recall, in Eric the Red saga, we had a ship go down at sea with nearly 50 men aboard, and we counted 1 because only the captain was mentioned by name. And we didn't know an exact number, and so we had to give a kind of shadow number of 48 or 49 extra people. Yeah. So if you want to give a shadow number...
Couldn't we have counted 3 in that one? I mean, what's wrong with us?
I suggest you go back to listen to that episode and pay careful attention to who was arguing against counting random numbers, and then come back to me.
Well, John, what is history for if not to teach us the mistakes that we've made?
I see.
So that we can learn from them and better ourselves.
Very noble. For now, the number is 17. And I believe you had some animals to list as well.
Well, and here again we have a significant problem, because clearly we have 1 bull killed by the ice spur at the very beginning of the saga, and then a herd of cattle. Now, how big is a herd of cattle to an Icelandic farmer?
What is the minimum number for a herd?
It's got to be more than 3.
At what point do they stop becoming like an entourage of cattle and become a herd?
Right. So, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how to count that, so I'm just going to say a herd of cattle, and we'll leave it at that. So
a large number of cattle.
That's right. So 17 humans and 1 bull and a herd of oxen.
And a fair number of other men who we can't count.
Sadly.
So what does that give us for a body count density measurement?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The body count density measurement, we'll take that 17 and divide it by the Hrafnkels, which is 1.05. And we come up with a body count density measurement, or BCDM, of 16.2. It's slightly lower than Thorstein the White, and still about 50 and change short of the current champ of body count density, the Saga of the Greenlanders.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to top that one. I mean, the combination of the mass murder and the very short saga length.
Well, and we were very fortunate that saga author chose to count the people that were killed in a mass murder. Well, Njal saga would learn to improve themselves if they did that.
That shows the foresight of that particular author. Perhaps others should have given some thought to the idea that they might be judged about this someday.
Take that, Eric the Red saga and the ship sinking.
Touché.
Nicknames.
In this category, we review the various nicknames we encounter in the saga. Some of them are pretty straightforward, some of them have a story to tell. Now, we already know about the origins of Brodd-Helgi's nickname, but I'll bet you that John has a handful of other equally interesting tidbits to share with us about the many sobriquets of this saga, whether silly, serious, or salacious. How's that for an intro?
You planned that one in advance. There's no way that came off the top of your head. Not 2 glasses of mead in. So, Actually, I don't have a lot to offer this time. We've got
come on, I finally give you a good intro, and that's what you say?
I appreciate that. We've got an average number of nicknames in this saga, but not a lot that reward extensive research.
Great.
I tried. I think we can accept more or less on face value that Ref the Red, Thorleif the Christian, Hraven the Norwegian, Olver the Wise, Thorvald the Tall, they all have pretty good reasons for the name they've got. And there are a few others like Oxthorir or Thorgerd Silver or Hoodbjorn that once you look into them turn out to be more or less obvious. But we're not totally without hope. I've got a few that are worth a close look.
Good.
So, first I will stop at our friend Brodd-Helgi Bjarnason. We already covered Brodd-Helgi last time, but he was beaten out by Hrani Goldhat. So I thought he should get another chance here.
Oh, good point.
As we said, his nickname, Broad or Spur, came from that incident when he tied an ice cleat to his bull's head so he could gouge its rival to death. It's pretty typical of the man, and I like the ambiguity of the name. Right? The two sagas treated it very differently, if you remember. The disapproving nature of the name is clear in Thorstein the White saga, while in Vopnafjord, even though he's presented as an objectively worse person, the name is presented neutrally.
Well, I think later on he's presented as objectively worse, but in the beginning we don't quite know.
Right. They're being very careful to keep that on that even keel. And even though I think we both decide he's much less likable in this saga, it's still a pretty great nickname.
Yeah.
Next, Asbjorn Shaggyhead or Lothenhofdi. Nicknames compounded with head can be a topographical reference, meaning a headland, like Hilton Head in the United States. Right, so theoretically, Shaggy Head could refer to a wild grass-covered outcropping of land. And there have been people who have argued that it means exactly that. But head names are more often recognition-based, right? They denote something about the personal appearance of the subject that's unusual or recognizable, something to make them stand out from the crowd.
Bald. So he's bald.
Well, yes, exactly. Asbjorn's Shaggy Head or Hairy Head nickname doesn't just mean that he's hairy. It certainly doesn't mean that he's bald. It means there's something outsized or striking about the quantity or the look of his hair. Right? It's something that makes him stand out in a crowd of bearded, probably quite hirsute men. So I tend to like
that word hirsute.
Well,
I don't know why, but it just sounds dirty to me.
Oh, I didn't mean to shock you. So whatever this is, I like this Shaggy Head translation as capturing that this probably isn't a compliment necessarily. Right? His hair is excessive or unkempt or otherwise odd looking. And also he's got the best beard and hair based nickname in this saga, and I like to have one of those in here if I can. Next, we have Thordis Todda. Thordis' nickname has two possible origins. Paul Peterson argues that Todda is a hypochoristic doublet for Thordis' name. So a pet name, in other words, right? Possibly deriving from a childish mispronunciation of Thordis, or possibly an affectionate diminutive, like Cutta for Cuthbert, like my dog, or Harry for Henry. Now the other possibility can be found in Fjótsdala saga, which we mentioned last time is a sibling saga to this one. In that saga, Todda is derived from Toddi, which means bit or gift or peace. And the saga there explains that Thordis was a beautiful and well-bred woman who was called Thordis Todda, because she never gave less than a big piece when she gave to the poor, because she was generous.
Yeah.
Now, that seems entirely plausible, right? But it's often been read as an authorial invention. In other words, the saga writer is confronted with a nickname and guessed at its origin. And in fact, if you go to the scholarly editions, even John Johannesson, the editor of the standard Icelandic edition of the saga, adds a footnote saying, in Icelandic, but I'll translate, this explanation for Thordis' nickname is unquestionably wrong. So, I'm not so sure myself, so I'm going to leave both of them as possibilities, and offer also the possibility it's meant to evoke a double meaning. That it's a diminutive and a reference to her generosity, like naming, a wealthy cartoon child Richie Rich.
But it said it was unquestionably wrong, so I don't know why we would even consider the other version.
Well, I'm willing to consider that this, frankly, long-dead scholar may be incorrect. Next, we have Thormod the Stick-Starer.
Winner.
Yeah. I'm going to warn you this is going to take a minute, but I think it's worth it. Because this is the sort of nickname I get excited about. So the name, Stikkublinder, is understood to mean Stikkubligur, which means stick-starer. And this tradition goes back a very long way. Jakob Jakobsson's 1902 German edition of the saga glosses the name as Stikkubligar. Now, he has good authority for that. Landnámabók gives Thormod's name as Stickstarer. And usually that's the end of the conversation, right? When Landnámabók speaks, people listen. But the problem is that the actual sources for Vopnafjord Saga are really clear about the name. Of the 5 earliest extant copies of the saga that Jakobsson consulted, 4, the A, B, C, and D texts, all give the name as Stikkublindur. Only the E text, which is a 19th century edition and which is using Landnámabók as its source, gives the name Stickstarer. Right? That's pretty obviously due to the editor, Olaf Sigurðsson, amending the text to match Landnámabók. Now, I get suspicious whenever I see an editor ignoring the evidence of his own sources. I'm not saying that Landnámabók is wrong, because God knows I would never say that, but it's worth at least looking at the name at face value. Stikkublindur means something like stick blind or hidden stick. In both of those cases, stick can either mean a stick of wood or a measuring stick, right? Equally a yard or 2 ells of cloth. I'm going to suggest 2 readings, both of which come with the caveat that Jakobsson might have been right to suggest the emendation to Stickstarer. But if this means hidden stick or something like it, it seems to suggest someone whose measures are done furtively or secretly. Maybe Thormod is a merchant with a reputation for trying to shortchange people. But the other reading, stick blind, now that's really intriguing. Andy, do you remember why Thormod ended up being killed by Brodd-Helgi?
They had a dispute over some stuff.
Yeah, it was because he tried to summons his neighbor Thord for stealing all the wood from a woodland they owned together.
No, I thought that you were asking about the origins of Thormod's conflict with Brodd-Helgi, right. And it comes well before that.
Right. I like the idea that this nickname is a reference to Thormod's wood being stolen when he wasn't looking. The stick-blind Thormod.
You know what? I think that that's really good. Or that he's staring at just the sticks that are left over after all the trees have been stolen from his woods.
I like that.
Dude, I think that's a really, really good one.
So that's why I don't ever trust the notes, right? You have to look this stuff up yourself.
Yeah. Too bad his nickname doesn't last that long.
Right, fair enough. He's only mentioned fairly briefly.
Yeah.
Next one, Skithy the Elegant, or Skithy Pruthi. This is a name that shows up a fair amount in the sagas. We actually saw it in both Vigeland's saga and Bjorn the Hitterdal Champion saga. It's usually translated as elegant, but its connotation is slightly more full-blooded than a word like elegant suggests. Mm-hmm. Right? The origin, I think we said once before, maybe the French prud'homme, or noble man. So it seems to carry a class marker as well as a description of an appealing personal carriage. It's translated sometimes as the magnificent or the splendid, but it can also carry the sense of stout-hearted or courageous.
Ooh.
So not a bad nickname to have. And lastly, but certainly not least, Tjorvi the Tall. This is an unusual one for us because the nickname isn't really what I'm interested in. Tjorvi's nickname is Mikli, right, the tall or the great, but it sort of slipped into the saga. Right? When we first meet him, we're just told that Tjorvi is a big man and very strong. For the record, Mikli mostly has the same connotations as great in English, right? So the meanings of tall, large, numerous, and socially prominent are all available as options. It's got many of the same connotations as great. We meet him because he's the one who Brodd-Helgi and Geir apparently send to murder Hravan the Norwegian, right? The merchant whose merchandise they tried to steal. Right? Remember, he's the one who was nowhere to be seen at the time that Hravan was killed. It's only later in the saga that he's called Tjorvi the Tall. But again, his nickname is pretty straightforward. I'm more interested in his actual name, Tjorvi, which is an older form of Torfi. Tjorvi means wizard or charm weaver. And this is so frustrating because we only really know 2 things about this guy. I mean, 3 if we count that he's tall. One is that he kills a man without any clear indication of how. We're just told that Hravan was apparently led to a dangerous place where he perished. How did Tjorvi get him there? The second thing we know is that he was outlawed for his role in killing Brodd-Helgi and looting, but because of the gap in the manuscript, once again, we don't know how he did it. Is Tjorvi a wizard? Inquiring minds want to know.
No, they don't.
Don't discard this. The greatest trick Tjorvi ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. So those are our options. What do you think?
Well, I've recently spoken to the amazing Randy, and he said that Tjorvi was not a wizard, and there's no evidence to prove that he was. So I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to say, as much as I want Brodd-Helgi to take a bunch of trophies, you can't beat Thormod Stickstarer.
I tend to agree. I really like that name.
Especially if it's the nickname that means what we think it means.
I certainly hope it does.
It's brilliant.
Congratulations, Thormod.
You may have lost your cattle and your forest.
And your life.
Oh, yeah.
And had to be smuggled out in the back of a coal box, but we hope this makes up for the indignities.
There you go.
Notable witticisms.
All right, now this category gives us a chance to celebrate the often understated and sometimes whimsical art of saga writing. And Vopnafjord Saga is actually a fairly well-written saga in terms of pacing, and in subtle and not-so-subtle bits of plotting, like the indirect hints about the conspiracy among Brodd-Helgi, Geir, and Tjorvi the Tall to kill Hravan the Norwegian. Right? We do get hints that this is a competent saga writer who knows what he's about. Now, that said, this isn't the cleverest saga in terms of one-liners.
No.
So it's maybe a saga that's a little ill-treated by our categories.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But there are still a few bon mots to consider.
Is that what you call them?
It's I think you had one to start.
I do, and this one I don't know if it's so witty. I just like it, and I think I think you'll understand why after I tell you. And I don't believe we mentioned it in the summary episode, but this is when Thorleif the Christian has absconded with Hravan the Norwegian's goods, and Brodd-Helgi and Geir chase him down in their little fishing vessels. And they're debating whether they should attack or not. Geir's advice is to go back to shore and hope that a nice wind comes in and blows Thorleif the Christian into shore.
Right. That's not his finest moment.
No, it doesn't work out. Brodd-Helgi says in his typical kind of aggressive fashion, "Listen to what that worthless fellow has to say. We should raise such a storm that some will feel its sting."
Oh.
I like this.
See, I feel like that's kind of a weird mixed image. I don't really think of storms as stinging.
Well, maybe lightning stings them. I don't know. I like that for two reasons. First, I think it's clever that they're talking about the weather, and Brodd-Helgi inserts this line about creating such a storm in battle that others will feel the sting. The other thing I like about it is the reference to the word sting. Now, I didn't look at the Icelandic for this one, but anytime I hear the word sting in terms of battle, I think of Bilbo shouting out, "I will do the stinging." And I just love that moment for Bilbo. This has nothing to do with that, but...
Well, I mean, we don't talk about it very often, but it's never a bad idea to consider whether or not something you're reading in the sagas may have influenced Tolkien.
Oh, absolutely.
We know he loves this stuff.
Well, and he spent the majority of his life reading the sagas in the original and talking about them with his friends.
Absolutely, right? The Coal Biters Club.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, it's never a bad idea to consider whether that might influence. No. But I don't know if that's the wittiest line.
Well, I don't know if there are witty lines in this saga, to be honest with you.
Well, allow me to change your mind, sir.
Okay.
My first nominee is a nice moment of snark. Geir has been dealing firsthand with Brodd-Helgi's increasingly unhinged behavior for several years. Finally, he's on a trip to drum up support to take Brodd-Helgi down, and he stops at the home of Ulvir the Wise. Ulvir asks about Helgi, and Geir is more than fair, saying, "He's a man of distinction, overbearing and headstrong, but a decent man in many respects." "But is he not a great troublemaker?" Ulvir says. And Geir dryly answers, "Well, the injustice of Helgi has mostly fallen on me, in that he seems to begrudge me the same sky over my head that he is using over his own." That's a good line.
It is a good line. It's a good line. Is it the kind of witticism that we're used to? The kind of witticism? I mean, what we're looking for here, John.
All right, then show me something better.
I don't have any, because we're looking for something like Scarpathan would say, and Scarpathan's just not here.
Well, this is the problem: is that Scarpathan should really still be winning like the next 6
right?
sagas, and it's and unfortunately, that's not how it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, my next one, for example, is a mere proverb, but the context of the proverb are quite good. So the placement of this line is excellent.
I'm listening.
It comes after Gator has manipulated the situation to recover the bodies. If you remember, Thormod and his friends, although we only count Thormod for body count, have been killed, and their bodies are lying under sticks, and nobody can get them out. Oh, stick starer. Maybe he's dead and staring up at the pile of sticks that's on top of him.
There you go.
His eyes are open, right? Just staring at the sticks.
Right, because nobody would have bothered to close his eyes and nostrils.
Exactly, yeah. Anyway, so what Gator does is he arranges for a bunch of men to go with coal bins into the forest, and in order to distract Brodd-Helgi, he has gone to Brodd-Helgi's house, and Brodd-Helgi thinks there's an attack coming so that they can recover the bodies. So he's focused on what Gator's doing. Meanwhile, the coal bins are being filled with the bodies. At the end of this episode, when Brodd-Helgi realizes what has happened, he says simply, "Wisdom comes to the fool in hindsight."
That's not a bad line.
Not a bad line. The context is good, even though I described it horribly. Who's not getting most articulate?
Well, you.
This fella right here.
The guy drinking the mead out of a drinking horn.
Strange.
So my next one is a quick throwaway line, but I want to make sure it got its due. I like it when minor characters in the sagas appear and get a kind of moment where they have a clever line and they just disappear from the saga again.
Right.
Now, in this case, Bjarni Helgason is looking for an opportunity to take revenge against Tjorvi the Tall, who's been outlawed for his part in the killing of Bjarni's father, Brodd-Helgi. Tjorvi is making plans to leave Iceland, presumably on a broomstick, and escape Bjarni's grasp. But a local shepherd, who's apparently sympathetic to Bjarni's problem, makes a point of visiting Bjarni on the day Tjorvi has chosen for leaving. And when asked the local news, the shepherd merely notes, "Well, Tjorvi's possessions are on the move." And it's left for Bjarni to figure out what to
exactly.
do next.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I don't think that's going to win notable witticism, but among these candidates, it's got a chance.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more,
Okay.
begrudgingly. This one comes from the kind of what I would consider the second half of the saga, the second generation, when Thorkel finally gets around to having a full-on attack against Bjarni. They're fighting, and one of the things that happens is Bjarni is hit, but the sword strikes Bjarni's necklace, a gift that was given to him and fastened very securely, something that indicates that maybe there was some magic involved. But Bjarni reaches out and picks up the necklace after the strike and puts it inside his tunic. Thorkel responds after seeing this and says, "You're still greedy for money, kinsman." Bjarni spoke, "Money will be needed today, the way you're acting." Which, to me, that one's really good. Because he's implying...
It's all right.
I forgot to explain it to you. He's implying someone here's going to get killed and there's going to be compensation to be paid.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand the reference.
I just want to make sure you understand. Because it's pretty clever.
Yes, thank you.
In the moment. And I think that for me, fits what notable witticism is all about.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree, but I question whether it's more clever than Get Here, suggesting that the only problem with Brodd-Helgi is that he begrudges others the same sky that he's using.
Yeah. You know what? You got me in a mood where I'm not going to fight with you. So if you want to give it to Gator,
feeling a little mellow this evening.
The mead's hitting, and I'm willing.
I think the same sky he's using is not bad. I like
it's not bad. It's not bad.
So there you go. So one for Get Here, because we haven't given him anything yet.
But in my heart, I'm giving it to Bjarni.
Well, your heart is not relevant.
Outlawry.
In this section, we review the actions of the saga's most villainous, conniving, and socially disruptive characters. And I'm going to be honest, even though there's really only one possible candidate, I'm not very happy about outlawing him.
Hold on a second. There's more than one possible candidate for outlawry in this saga.
Oh, come on. Now, I know you're going to throw a few names in just to round out the category, but...
No. It is our duty to consider all possibilities. And in this case, we've got at least 3 characters worthy of our attention.
As I said, oh, come on. The only other character I can think of who fits the role of villain in this saga is Svart, the unruly bully from Chapter 2. And he's really only there as a plot device to establish Brodd-Helgi as a capable man in the region. But
he is legitimately a bad guy. We've got an obligation here.
an obligation. Svart isn't in the saga for more than a page or so. I hardly think he's worthy of consideration in this category. So go ahead, John. Who's your next minor player to throw in here?
Oh no, he's hardly a minor player. I'm talking about the guy who may or may not be responsible for actually killing Hraven, the humble Norwegian merchant. I'm talking about Tjorvi, I'm not a wizard, the tall.
Or he may or may not be a wizard.
Well, right. And he may or may not be responsible.
Well, that's it. You just said he may or may not be responsible. Did he or didn't he?
No, I think we both know that he did.
Okay. He did.
Yeah.
But still, he's just a tool of Brodd-Helgi and Gator.
Well, now wait. Now, a tool is irrelevant. He's wielding the weapon. But now that you mention it, we should consider them as well.
Well, I agree, but here's a serious question for you, John. If we outlaw the main characters of this saga, then who's left to pick for thingmen?
Well, you know what? We've run across this problem before. If you remember Gunnlaug Serpentongue, we outlawed both the main characters.
Right.
And found ourselves scrabbling through the refuse for our thingmen.
Well, I'm concerned that might happen here.
But I think we have a moral obligation to make this consideration. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, let's review the crimes of our so-called protagonists. I'll start with Gator. Now, he's complicit in the death of Hraven the Norwegian.
Though, to what degree? No one ever proves that he, or Brodd-Helgi for that matter, are responsible. I don't think we can outlaw him on the grounds of Hraven's death.
Well, maybe not. But I think we can at least consider it. We've got far more insight into the killing of Hraven than anyone else in the saga. Right? The author essentially tells us that Gator and Brodd-Helgi plotted his death.
Oh, come on now. That's never said explicitly. It's entirely possible that Hraven just ran afoul of the wrong guy that night, and Gator and Brodd-Helgi just took advantage of the situation.
Oh, sure.
Nobody really knows.
So they're just guilty of corpse robbing. You're just being deliberately difficult, aren't you?
I am, actually. But what else can we accuse Gator of doing after this?
I mean, not much. Being slow to act. He doesn't really do anything legally or morally problematic after this.
Ah, I see. So you don't count the slaying of his former best friend, Brodd-Helgi Thorgelson, as legally or morally problematic. Interesting.
No, I don't, and I'll tell you why. Brodd-Helgi is the most despicable character in this whole saga. His list of questionable actions begins with putting an ice spur on a bull's head and then watching his gore. I know we've talked about this, but this is horrifying. He helps his bull to shred the head of an opposing bull. In the dispute with Thormod, he decapitates a herd of oxen to make a petty point. He's got a real problem with animals. As if that wasn't bad enough, he then cuts down every tree in the woodland he owned jointly with Thormod.
What's he got against trees?
Well...
But, I mean, all of that's very excessive, though impressive when you consider the effort involved.
Fair enough, but he's not done. Let's not forget that Brodd-Helgi's treatment of poor Halla. His wife announces that she's terminally ill, and what does he do?
Well, he runs out and gets engaged to Thorgerd Silver.
Before Halla has even left the farm.
Yeah, it's not a good look. I mean, Brodd-Helgi, I want to be honest here, deserves what's coming to him.
Well, and we're not done yet. There's all those men in Thormod's company that he kills, even though we only got to count one.
Yeah, you can't blame him for that exactly. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but they were coming to deliver summons for the cutting of the trees.
Well, they weren't summonsing Helgi. The summons was for his tenant Thord.
Is he supposed to just stand by and let them treat his tenant that way? Come on.
Legally, yes. Look, I don't know about you, but I can't see anyone else in the saga more worthy of Outlawry than Brodd-Helgi. I want to point out that after he kills those men, he also refuses to allow their bodies to be buried, making him guilty of mass murder rather than mass killing.
That's kind of a
He
jerk
might not
move.
be your traditional saga villain, but he's a terrible person. He's got to go.
I agree with you, John. I really wanted to like him, and I've tried to support this guy. Back in Thorstein's saga, I didn't know much about him, and I seriously considered taking him as thingman in the hopes that he would turn out okay in this saga. It was a gamble.
Now, I didn't know if you were going to confess that or if I was going to have to bring it up.
No, I freely admit it. If you listen to that episode again, you'll hear me kind of building up towards that, and then you remind me that we had agreed to save him for this episode.
Yeah, I really wish we hadn't made that agreement. It would have been hilarious. We've never actually dealt with the problem of what to do if one of us picks a thingman and then we outlaw him.
It would be almost worth the laugh. But fortunately, due to your good memory, I was saved from that fate. Brodd-Helgi's just not a good person, which Goodman the Powerful pointed out after dealing with him for just one season in Chapter 10.
Yep.
He's callous and manipulative and excessive and as brutish as he can be at nearly every turn.
Well, then let's do it. Let's deliver our sentence of outlawry.
All right, you convinced me. Chorvi the Tall, pack your...
No.
Svart! We didn't get the chance to know you, but...
now.
Oh, Brodd-Helgi. We don't say this often, but you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yes, we're very disappointed in you. Though you may have shown promise as a young man, you squandered your talents and turned what could have been a good life into something shameful.
I can't help but feel that if he didn't have such a rough upbringing, John, that maybe he could have done better.
Well, we talked about his social isolation and the problems that creates, but nevertheless, he made his bed, and now he has to lie in it.
John, how did we become Brodd-Helgi's parents here?
I don't know, but he's not getting dinner tonight. He's been very naughty.
All right. Now, you heard your mother, Brodd-Helgi. There's no dinner for you.
I'm his mother?
Yes, definitely.
Right, no dinner and a sentence of full outlawry.
Now go and think about what you've done.
Thingmen.
In this section, John and I take on the well-deserved role of Gothar and review the saga's best and brightest before selecting our favorites to join us each as thingmen. And as always, we flipped a coin before starting to find out who will select their thingman first. And John won the coin toss, which was expertly executed by my son.
Yeah, expertly? Didn't he drop the coin twice?
Yeah, he did. And you would have thought that he would have worked out the toss to my advantage somehow, but he failed there as well, so there goes loyalty.
Failed I don't think is the right word there. I think we should have him flip the coin every time.
No, I mean, next time I want your son to do it.
The 3-year-old.
Yeah, it
or
doesn't
the
matter
5-year-old. Either way, I think
there's
going to be at least a couple of drops.
Now, because John won, he has the option to either choose first on this round of Thingmen or defer until the next saga.
Right, and as we've seen with some of Andy's deferments, patience can sometimes be advantageous.
That is true.
And if Bill Belichick has taught me anything, it's that sometimes deferring to the second half is a wise move tactically.
Mm-hmm. But it all depends on your opponent in football, and it depends on which saga you're choosing from and which saga is up next.
Right, and in this case, we're going to be carrying on with our trilogy of sagas from the northeast of Iceland and doing the saga of Droplog's sons next.
Yes, and I haven't read it yet, so I'm not really sure whether I want you to defer or go first here. So why don't you just tell us what you're going to do?
Well, I have read it already many times, and because this is actually one I enjoy, but tempting as it is to pick first this time, because this is a saga where the pickings are mighty slim, I think I'm going to be much happier picking first next time. So why don't you scurry along and make your pick?
Are you serious?
I am.
See, I was kind of hoping that you would pick first, and then I wouldn't have to really say much, and I could just go, well, I'm taking this guy. But now you leave the burden of responsibility on me.
Enjoy it.
All right. So I've got a list of 4 thingmen.
4? Good for you.
There's Gaetir. I'm not taking Gaetir, but here's why you would think about him. He's a Gothi, and he is reported to be a great sage, but look, I'm too bothered by the fact that he's so slow to act to the point that his thingmen are approaching him and saying, hey buddy, what's up? We're going to leave you if you don't do something. So as great a sage as he is, he doesn't understand what's going on around him, so I can't really choose Gaetir. Bjarni Brodd-Helgeson. I think I would choose him. I'm strongly considering Bjarni. This is what I like about Bjarni. Bjarni is set a task to avenge his father, and he gets the job done. That's a go-getter. I like him. He also arranges the chopping block on the horse gag in order to escape Thorkel that one time, which I don't think we talked about in the episode, but you'll have to read the saga to learn more about it. But I thought it was pretty smart. I liked it. But he's also criticized for an unmanly attack on Gaetir. His immediate repentance and his regret, cradling the head of Gaetir, that draws me to this character. He's the kind of guy I like. He gets the job done, but he understands the complexity of the kind of world he lives in. Also, the fact that he's willing to forgive Thorkel after all that Thorkel does to attack him makes him the kind of guy that I would like. Does that make him the best thingman material? I'm not sure. I think I would strongly consider him. Then there's Chorvi the Tall, who seems like the kind of guy that if you say, hey, go kill this dude, he'll go do it. So he's a good henchman. Right. I think of Tjorvi the Tall as a henchman.
Right. It's true that we both have a lot of cooks, not enough waiters.
That's right. Now, the last person I want to consider is Thorvard the Healer. He comes in late in the saga, but he plays a very important role after the battle between Bjarni and Thorkel.
Well, he plays a role.
He plays an important role, both literally and metaphorically. Literally, he heals the wounds of Bjarni and Thorkel, and metaphorically, he heals the wounds of the culture that has been rended by the battles and the feuds between these two families.
Wow, that would almost be deep if I were buying it.
I think you should buy it because you're a literary scholar and you know that's exactly what he's doing in the saga. What I like about him is the fact that there's nobody else in the saga who's really worth considering. Mm-hmm. And I've played enough RPGs to know that you can't just have tanks rushing into battle and you can't just have archers flinging arrows at your enemies. You need a healer to heal the wounds of battle. And Thorvard the Healer...
Are you making an RPG analogy for why you're about to choose a non-entity in the saga?
Not a non-entity. He is the one who binds the saga together. Thorvard the Healer.
Oh dear.
I'm happy to welcome you to my esteemed group of thingmen. You will make us whole when we are unwhole?
Yeah.
Boy, that fell flat.
Unhalu. No, I think you've made at least two assumptions there. One is that you have an esteemed group of men.
I think we do. I think they're doing a fantastic job.
All right. So Thorvard it is.
What's the second assumption that I've made?
The second assumption is that anyone will be excited by the choice of a cleric instead of a tank.
Well, I've already got tanks. Not enough clerics.
No. I mean, I agree. This is not a great saga to go thingman shopping in, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time criticizing your choice. There isn't a single available choice that isn't morally compromised or unimpressive in some significant way. And fair enough, you've gone for unimpressive.
Oh!
I accept that.
Ow!
But
I'm going to need Thorvard to heal that wound.
Once we eliminated Brodd-Helgi through Outlawry, I think we laid down a line in the sand. Arguably, Brodd-Helgi's worst crime is the premeditated murder of Hravan the Norwegian for no reason other than a greedy desire for the man's wealth. And Geir is right by his side during that shameful endeavor. In fact, the only thing worse than killing a man to rob him is killing that man and then letting his business partner get away with the goods. And Geir's the main one responsible for that debacle. Oh, yeah. Remember, he's the one who predicts the weather is going to turn, and it does not. So he's off my radar.
And interestingly, it would seem that Tjorvi the Tall is Geir's man, which would imply that Geir's really the one responsible for the death of Hravan.
I think that's entirely possible. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable taking Geir. Which means the other options are the sons, right? Bjarni and Thorkel.
I don't think Thorkel's an option.
Of the two, I'll take Bjarni.
You should.
He's cleverer than his father Helgi. He's as forbearing as his uncle Geir, and he's far more interesting than his cousin Thorkel. Now, yes, he kills his uncle, but in revenge for his own father and brother's deaths. Right? In this culture, I don't think we can fault him for making a difficult decision that clearly cost him deeply. Mm-hmm. And he then worked over and over to avoid continuing the cycle of violence, despite the provocations of Thorkel, who, in fairness, has his own father to avenge, but fails to do so. Ultimately, in a saga without a clearly desirable pick for Thingmen, Bjarni's the best of the lot, and I welcome him to my hall. He won't sit at the benches nearest the fire. We'll make a place for him somewhere near the side doors over near where the outhouse is.
Well said, well said. Just out of curiosity, who raised Bjarni?
Geir.
And who killed Geir?
Bjarni. I said it cost him deeply to do this.
It sure did. All right, then.
I do think it's one of the more emotional moments that I've read in a recent saga, when he cradles Geir's head in his lap after being the man to kill him.
I'll agree.
He has to do this. He's required by his culture to avenge his father. And frankly, he lacks the self-knowledge of Snorri to avoid taking revenge. Like I say, Bjarni doesn't get a place of honor. He gets a place.
Well, I think Bjarni and Snorri will have plenty to talk about.
Yes, they will.
All right. So,
In my
Thorvard the healer for me, and Bjarni Brodd-Helgeson for John.
Final rating.
And now it is time at long last to rate this saga. John and I will each give our opinion and a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 of what we thought of this brilliant little saga.
Oh, I was going by 1 to 11.
No, it doesn't go to 11.
Oh, right. Sorry, that was Njal's saga.
Yes. And because I went first on thingmen, though I didn't want to, we're going to let John go first on final ratings.
All right. And honestly, I don't want to go first on final ratings. Trying to slap a rating on this saga is difficult because I'm not sure what to judge. What exactly am I using for my criteria? Do I judge this based on the saga that it is, or based on the saga that it's meant to be? Ultimately, this podcast, we started this because we wanted to encourage other people to read and enjoy the sagas. So I have to look at what a reader comes to when they open this book. And what they will come to is a saga that's about 90% complete, or at least I think it is. But the missing pieces include the key moments of the text. I don't just mean the violence, although missing out on the final comeuppance of Brodd-Helgi is deeply frustrating for a fan of saga literature. What's really missing is the core emotional stuff, right? The emotional beats that make the saga. We miss the actual moment when the sickly and heartbroken Halla Lutingsdottir leaves her home with Brodd-Helgi after being rejected by him in favor of a new woman.
That is a tragedy.
We miss the loss of Bjarni Helgeson's father and brother, and any emotional impact that may have had on Bjarni or on the narrative. We miss the moment when Bjarni is emotionally browbeaten by his stepmother to take revenge on his own uncle for his father's death. And then several minor gaps interrupt the build-up to Gator's death at Bjarni's hands. And as I've said, I think that's actually a very powerful emotional moment, but it's undercut slightly by those missing pieces. Mm-hmm. There was once a really solid saga here. Maybe not quite at the level of the best, maybe, but a good story with a solid payoff. But we're blocked over and over again from the hints about motive and trauma that propel the characters forward. And the narrative suffers a great deal as a result. I think I would have given a complete version of this saga a very respectable score, but as it stands, I can't go higher than a 4. And even that comes with a caveat that this is not a saga for newcomers. Right? Save this for after you're already in love with the genre and need to read them all.
Very interesting.
How about you, Andy?
You know, I'm glad you gave it that score, and I like your description of it. Now, we disagreed on...
You could just say ditto and we can go home.
Well, I have something to say, but it's really not so much about this saga as the last saga that we read.
Then I think you're slightly late.
No, I was pretty harsh on Thorstein the White Saga, though I think
you were.
Deservedly so. You rated that one higher than me because you felt it encapsulated nicely what a saga is in a short space. Now, I disagree on the value of Thorstein Saga in that regard, but I would argue that the Saga of the People of Vopnafjord does accomplish all the things that you claim that Thorstein Saga achieves as an introductory saga. Now, that doesn't mean that Vopnafjord Saga is a great saga by any stretch, but if you are looking for a short saga to establish some of the typical themes and motifs, then you could do worse than this one. I think you could do a lot better.
I mean, you could.
But you could do worse. Like if you choose Thorstein Saga, for example.
Wow.
This is a middle-of-the-road saga, but slightly below. And I think it's only slightly below because of that lacuna. So I'm giving it a -1 for that. Thus, it is a 4. I agree with you.
There you go. Great minds and all that.
Well, our approach is very different, but we arrive at the same place. I took the high road. You took the low road. We'll get to 4 together.
That's what I do. That's me. When you go high, I go low. So a 4 from Andy, a 4 from me, and that's an 8 for Vopnafjord Saga.
And that brings us to the end of yet another saga. And John, we're one saga away from our second quarter court.
That's right.
Next time around, we'll follow the thread that this saga introduced when Thorkel was too sick to fight Bjarni.
That's right. And in that brief throwaway chapter, the author introduced the sons of Droplog, Helgi and Grim.
And because of that brief cameo, we will turn to the saga of the sons of Droplog. I, for one, can't wait.
Yeah, I've read through the saga a couple of times, and you might want to wait. There are so many people mentioned in this saga. It will very likely blow your mind.
Well, John, that's why I keep my handy paper and pen right nearby. I just chart it out, all in a genealogy, and Bob's your uncle, I got it all.
That's the genealogy, Bob's your uncle? You have a little more work to do. You go ahead and try that.
Well, in the meantime, get in touch with us to share your thoughts of the Saga of the People of Vopnafjord, and let us know if we made the right decisions.
Right, and if you prefer someone like Thorvard the Healer and his very brief appearance in the saga,
oh, we're doing that again?
And engaging Bjarni Brodd-Helgason.
Whatever. Sure, whatever he said. You can also start peppering us with questions about sagas, medieval Iceland, or even who we are and how we do this crazy podcast called Saga Thing for the Second Quarter Court. We'll try to keep track of the questions and then address them at the court. You can reach us on Twitter, where we are at SagaThingPod, on Facebook, where we are SagaThing Podcast, or via email at SagaThingPodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment on our blog site, SagaThingPodcast.wordpress.com.
Or you can write us on a boat, or you can write us with a goat, or you can write us in the rain, or in the dark, or on a train, or in a car, or in a tree. We love your letters, don't you see? So you can write us with a fox, or you can write it in a box, or you can write us with a mouse, or you can write it in a house. You can write us here or there. Why, you can write us anywhere. We do not want you to send spam, but tweet or Facebook all you can.
Oh, you done?
I'm done.
All right. That was not bad. I mean, that's one of your better ones. But before the copyright people attack us for that, we will leave you.
Right.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye for now.
And what I like about Thorvald the Heaver...
The Heaver? He's got quite a gag reflex.